July 6, 1965. Presidential continuity. The United States Senate approved the 25th Amendment to the Constitution with a vote of 68 to 5, marking a significant moment in American constitutional history. The amendment addressed long-standing ambiguities regarding presidential succession and disability, issues that had been of growing concern throughout the nation's development but had become urgent in the mid-20th century due to modern health risks, the Cold War, and the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The Constitution's original provisions on presidential succession were contained in Article 2, Section 1, but these clauses were vague. They stated that in cases of the president's removal, death, resignation, or inability to discharge duties, those powers would devolve upon the vice president. However, the text did not clarify whether the vice president would become president or merely act as president, nor did it clearly define what constituted inability, or how that determination would be made. This lack of clarity created multiple crises in U.S. history, including the illnesses of Presidents James Garfield and Woodrow Wilson, where there was no mechanism to transfer power temporarily. The assassination of President Kennedy on November 22, 1963, brought renewed focus to these constitutional gaps. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was swiftly sworn in as president aboard Air Force One, but the event revealed the fragility of presidential continuity. Johnson had previously suffered a heart attack in 1955, raising concerns about succession stability should he become incapacitated. Furthermore, the vice presidency remained vacant until Hubert Humphrey took office in 1965, highlighting another problem. The Constitution had no provision for filling a vice presidential vacancy until the next election. The 25th Amendment was designed to resolve these constitutional deficiencies. Proposed by Congress on July 6, 1965, and ratified by the states on February 10, 1967, the amendment consists of 4 sections. Section 1 codifies that the vice president becomes president in the event of the president's death, resignation, or removal. Section 2 provides a mechanism for filling a vacancy in the vice presidency, requiring nomination by the president and confirmation by a majority of both houses of Congress. Sections 3 and 4 address presidential inability. Section 3 allows a president to temporarily transfer power to the vice president by declaring in writing an inability to perform the duties of office, a clause that has been invoked during periods of medical procedures requiring anesthesia. Section 4 permits the vice president and a majority of the cabinet or another body designated by Congress to declare the president incapacitated. If the president disputes the declaration, Congress must decide the outcome, requiring a 2/3 vote in both houses to sustain the vice president's assumption of power. The Senate's approval in 1965 reflected a bipartisan consensus on the need for constitutional clarity and stability in executive leadership. The Cold War context added urgency, as the prospect of a nuclear crisis underscored the necessity for a functional chain of command. The legislative process moved swiftly after Senate approval, with the House passing the amendment on July 22, 1965, by a vote of 368 to 29. Since ratification, the 25th Amendment has been used multiple times. Section 2 was invoked when Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned in 1973, leading to the nomination of Gerald Ford. It was used again when Ford became president following Nixon's resignation, resulting in the appointment of Nelson Rockefeller as vice president. Section 3 has been used in situations involving temporary medical procedures by Presidents Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Joe Biden. Section 4 remains the most controversial and has never been fully invoked, though it was considered during the Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump administrations. The Senate's action on July 6, 1965, marked a pivotal step in codifying procedures that ensure continuity and stability in the executive branch. By addressing both death and incapacitation, the 25th Amendment has provided a clear legal framework that balances constitutional authority with practical governance needs. It remains a critical component of American political structure and emergency preparedness. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history.